Alright guys, today I'm so excited to share this recipe with you. It involves some of my favorite ingredients. And the best part about it is that it is so easy. The whole thing comes together in under an hour, and that's just because the roasted garlic takes an hour. I'm going to go through my ingredients with you so you can see what we're using, but I want you to know ahead of time that this recipe is already on my website at jillskitchenkc.com. and it's under the world's longest name, prosciutto wrapped, mozzarella stuffed chicken breast over linguini with roasted garlic cheese sauce. Talk about a mouthful, ha, pun intended. Alright, we are going to use chicken breast. Even though I love all kinds of different kinds of chicken meat, I find that for stuffing, the chicken breast is the easiest to work with. You don't have to cut around a bone, and if you get the good stuff, I do when it's on sale, it's already trimmed, so you don't have to deal with any of that extra work. We're also going to use prosciutto. Now prosciutto is one of my favorite things to eat. I can eat it just like this, or if you fry it in a pan, it tastes a lot like American bacon. It is a salt-cured Italian ham, and you can find it in a lot of the specialty areas of your supermarket, or in some cases at your deli. We're also going to use fresh herbs. Today we're going to include thyme and rosemary, both which are pungent flavors that can be extremely overwhelming, but in this situation we want them to be prevalent. We're also going to use linguini. Feel free to use any kind of pasta that you want. It doesn't even have to be noodly like this. You can use a bow tie or a little wagon wheel, whatever you've got in your pantry. Another one of the key ingredients to this is fresh mozzarella. This you can get in your specialty cheese section in just about every grocery store in America now. I highly encourage you to make that special trip to that one grocery store that you know has it versus buying that already shredded stuff in the bag that's coated in cornstarch. It doesn't melt the same, it doesn't taste the same, and there's no substitute for fresh mozzarella. That is all that goes into the chicken and the pasta. For the sauce, it's just a couple of extra ingredients. We're of course going to start a roux, which is butter and flour. Then we're going to add some chicken stock, some whole milk, Asiago cheese, and good old grated Parmesan because it creates a great texture. And then at the very end, we're going to finish it with that delicious roasted garlic that's about to come out of the oven. Alright guys, it's time to talk about roasted garlic. This stuff is so delicious that you can literally eat it straight from the already roasted skin with your fingers. And I do. Alright, to prep it, all we do is a couple of things. You gotta have a really sharp knife and a large enough head of garlic that it'll produce enough roasted garlic cloves to add to the sauce. Medium to large size will work. If you use elephant garlic, which is ginormous, just test it out towards the end to see how much you want to add. Don't add the whole thing at once unless you want it to be really strong. Alright, so I'm going to use kind of a weird knife for this, but I want it to be really sharp and I want it to go straight through. So carefully holding it, you're just going to cut the top of the garlic all the way off so that you can see all of the cloves are exposed. Once you do that, there's two ways that you can roast garlic in the oven. How I'm going to show it to you now is to use just simple aluminum foil. Makes cleanup easy because you can just throw it away when you're done. However, you can use one of these handy dandy terracotta garlic roasters as well, which makes it wonderful. Simply put the garlic in the middle of your aluminum foil, and then you're going to use some really nice quality extra virgin olive oil, and you're just going to lightly coat the top of it. Gets me really excited just doing that. Then you're going to go for some kosher salt. And again, keep in mind that that is a whole head of garlic that you're seasoning, so don't be skimpy, but don't overdo it. Some black pepper. I like to use large crack on that so that it can cover a lot of surface. And then something that my best friend Nicole taught me, you can't have too much garlic flavor, so she actually sprinkles a little garlic powder on top of hers as well, and I've started doing that. And it's just so dang good. I do it every time. That's it. Now you just simply fold it all up, nice and neat. Cover the whole thing so nothing comes out, and you're just going to pop that into a 400-degree oven and roast it for an entire hour. Thanks to the magic of television, I already have one done and ready so you can see what it looks like. And as you can see, it turns a deep caramelized brown color. God, the smell of it is so overwhelming, you just literally want to pop it into your mouth like candy. But we're gonna have to wait because this goes into the sauce at the very end. Alright, when you're working with fresh herbs, there's a couple of tips and tricks that you can do to make your job easier. With things with a really woody stem like rosemary, you can simply hold the rosemary at the end and gently run your fingers down, and look at that, a perfectly clean rosemary stem. And then just pick away at the top so that you don't get any of that woody stem in there, because even though it's nice to chew on, you don't want it in your food. So we're going to do 2 stems exactly the same way. In prepping your fresh herbs, you want to make sure that you do enough to coat the chicken and add it to the sauce. Today we're making just 2 servings, so you need to multiply that by 2, 4, 6, or whatever in order to accommodate this meal for your family. Alright, same kind of thing you do for the thyme. It's just a little less resilient, so you have to be a little more gentle. But in the long run, the stem is also not quite as tough, so if you get a little bit in there, you're not going to ruin anything. Make sure you chop enough of the fresh herbs to use in both the sauce and the chicken. You can see here that I've got probably about 3 tablespoons worth, and that's for the 2 servings. The prep for the chicken breast really could not be easier. Again, if you get good quality chicken, you can pretty much do whatever you want to it. The ones I'm using today are really beautiful. They are really well trimmed, and they don't have a lot of excess size to them, so they're perfect for an individual serving. Now, a couple of things that we're going to need to make this easy is, the first thing is a really sharp knife. If you use a dull knife for this, it's not going to work and you're going to have problems. So simply take your chicken breast and you're going to pick the fattest side or the thickest side. So simply take the widest side and you're going to run your knife down the edge, being very careful not to cut all the way through to the back or to the bottom. And then once you've got a nice little incision, if you will, then you're just going to take your blade and run it on the inside to create a pocket. That's where we're going to stuff the cheese. You can see I've got a nice little opening there, ready for the cheese. Oh goodness, here we go with some fresh mozzarella. This stuff needs to stay really cold until you're ready to use it, otherwise it just kind of smashes instead of slices. I have this incredible cheese slicer that my in-laws got me for Christmas a couple of years back. Gosh, probably about 10 by now. But all it does is it has a little wire, and you just grate it right down over the cheese and it cuts it into perfect slices every time. And I find it's way easier to use this on a fresh mozzarella than a knife. If you don't have one of these handy dandy things, then use a sharp knife. Make sure you don't use the same one as the chicken. No cross-contamination. Alright, so I'm going to stick the mozzarella right here and just make a couple of vertical slices. See how easy that was? And I'm going to use 3 slices per chicken breast. Let's go ahead, we're going to take the cheese and just cut it in half, and I just like to do that with my fingers. And then I'm going to put it right along the seam of this chicken. And I'm going to put enough cheese in there that I feel that it's going to explode with cheesy deliciousness when it's all done. Then you just wrap the chicken directly back over the cheese, and look, you can't even see it right now. The seasoning on this chicken is really easy. You've already got half of it done because we already chopped the herbs. So now we're going to take our extra virgin olive oil and drizzle it over the top. You don't need a whole lot, just enough to coat the chicken. Then we're going to do, of course, salt and pepper. Can't have food without salt and pepper, people. Well, I guess you can, but it may not taste quite as good. They do have some nice substitutes out there for people who have to control their sodium. Then we're going to add 2 of my favorite things in the whole wide world, garlic and onion. I like to use the powder form versus the salt so that I control the salt on my food. I don't like to salt it after I've cooked it, but I certainly don't like it to be too salty that I can't enjoy it. So So garlic salt goes, or excuse me, garlic powder goes first, and then some onion powder. And as you guys know, I don't measure anything. I just like to season it until it looks like it's seasoned well. And then finally, half of these herbs. I like it to be really coated on there. It needs to be a prevalent flavor in this dish. Now, this is a little bit tougher, but you want to try to incorporate all of those herbs and spices without making your chicken look too ugly. I know, but you eat with your eyes first, people. I'm gonna move on to my favorite part of this entire dish, and that is the prosciutto. If you keep it cold, it'll peel really easily for you. The warmer it is, the harder it is to get apart. So I start with one good piece, and it goes all the way around the chicken, just like this. Super duper easy. And then I have a foil-lined broiler pan that I'm gonna use because I like the way that the heat can circulate all the way around the food, which helps to get the prosciutto crispy on the bottom as well. And if you've got your garlic roasting in your oven, it's already hot, preheated to 400 degrees, you can pop your chicken in there, and when your hour is up on your garlic, just pull the garlic out and let the chicken continue to cook. In my oven, it needed 23 minutes for 2 smaller breasts, so I'm gonna do it for 25 to start out with today, but you just wanna cook it until the chicken is obviously cooked through, the cheese is oozing out, and the prosciutto is crispy on top. Let's get it in the oven. Next up is the roasted garlic cheese sauce. Really easy again, guys. We're gonna do a roux to start it off with, and that means we're gonna start it with 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Again, I like to control the amount of sodium that goes into my food, and one of the ways I can do that is by using unsalted butter. We're gonna let that melt, and once it's all melted and quits bubbling, then we're gonna add a little bit of our flour. This time I'm only gonna use 1 tablespoon of flour to the 2 tablespoons of butter. That way it doesn't get too thick like a gravy, and it comes out more saucy. Alright, the butter is all melty, and it's a nice golden brown, and as you can see, it's quit bubbling. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that tablespoon of butter, and then immediately start to whisk. It's super important that you continue to whisk this sauce practically the entire time. That is how you avoid lumps, people. You don't want it to get too dark for this sauce, so when it turns a nice caramel color, like this here, you can see that it really looks like you can pour it on top of ice cream at this point. Woo, yummy. We're gonna go ahead and add 1.5 cups of chicken broth. If you have homemade, then by all means go for it. And then immediately whisk some more. My grandmother taught me when making a gravy or a pan sauce that you always want to make sure you add your liquids when they are cold. If you add it when they are hot, a lot of times it will cause the flour and butter to recurdle, and then you get lumps again. So this is something that she taught me when I was 15. I've just been doing that ever since. I don't question it at this point. I keep on whisking this while it simmers, and the heat from it will cause it to thicken. Alright guys, you can see it has gotten a little thick that it coats the bottom of the pan when I move it like that. So while it is still simmering, I'm going to go ahead and add 1/4 cup of milk. I like whole milk for this. Thank you, Nicole, for changing my life on that. I used to use 1% for everything because that's what we drink. And when she came up to cook with me, she wanted to make biscuits and gravy, and all I had was 1% milk, and she threw an absolute fit, and we had to go to the grocery store to get some whole milk. And I must say, it does make a big difference. It adds a little more creaminess without having to actually use heavy cream, which obviously adds calories. I have some really delicious, super nutty Asiago cheese. We're gonna add this in along with its best friend, Parmesan. Now, you know my philosophy if you read my blog on pre-shredded cheeses. I will say this, nothing else quite beats the texture that grated Parmesan can offer a sauce. I happen to know that there's a famous Alfredo sauce out there that uses it as well. So I don't feel too embarrassed to use it in this sauce today. However, you won't see me use it in a lot of stuff. And right now I'm going to go ahead and add in about a 1/4 cup of this Asiago cheese. Let it start to get all melty and delicious. One of the great tricks of the trade when making pasta is using a little bit of the hot starchy pasta water to help thicken your sauce. It just adds a little bit of extra flavor and also that perfect thing that'll make it tossable with your pasta. This meal was super easy, but I am so hungry that I really can't come up with anything clever to say at this point because all I want to do is tuck in and devour this. However, I would like to say, if you are a magnet lover like me, I would love to have a magnet from wherever you are viewing this from. Email me your address. I will send you a self-addressed stamp envelope and you can send it right back to me, and then you can see your magnet on Jill's Kitchen Fridge. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Happy eating!